Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, the election. But more specifically, we're going to talk about the top mistakes investors make during the election season and how you can avoid them.
Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, where we talk about the human side of money. Join us as we dive beyond the numbers, unpacking the psychology of money to equip you with the tools you need to be wise in wealth.
I'm Frazier, Chief Behavioral Officer at RFG Advisory. And Drew Staten, in his book, The Political Brain, says the political brain is an emotional brain. And an emotional brain typically doesn't make sound, level-headed financial decisions. And what they found is that those people whose party is in power tend to have a more favorable economic outlook than those that don't. And those whose party is not in power have a more negative economic outlook. And at a point in time when politics are on our mind, when there's change on the horizon, when there's uncertainty, when there's turmoil, our brain's even more emotional than normal. And as we've talked about in past videos, our brain was wired to survive. It has an emotional component that serves us well, but when it comes to making deliberate, sound, level-headed decisions, that's not the part of the brain that we want to be making decisions with. So let's talk about the 4 mistakes that investors make because of their politically emotional brain and how you can avoid them. The first mistake is just simply letting the outcome of the election be the guide for your financial decisions. Letting the outcome of the election determine whether or not you're going to be in the market or stay invested in the market. As you can tell from this chart, the market's apolitical. It hasn't mattered who's in power, what party, what president. Going back over time, the market still trends up and to the left. The market still grows no matter which party has been in power. The worst thing you can do is let the party in power guide your investing decisions. Now let's go to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is attempting to time the market around the election. So once again, take a look at this chart, at this research that was done. What you'll see is there's 3 different strategies to investing around the election. One option is to be fully invested throughout the election year. Second option is to just drop in, make consistent contributions over time throughout the year. The last option at the bottom, the red one, is just sitting out and sitting on the sidelines to try to time the market perfectly. As you can see, the best ending result was just staying invested throughout the entire year. In other words, remaining invested, staying invested, instead of trying to time your entry and exit into the market, saw significantly better returns and significantly better outcomes. All right, mistake number 3. And some of you aren't going to like hearing this, but mistake number 3 is allowing the media to infiltrate your beliefs and your decisions. No matter which outlet you prefer, no matter where you consume your news, make no mistake about it, their objective is not to provide you with unbiased, objective information about the political environment. It's to get you to click and watch, and the things that do that are not unbiased information, it's sensationalized headlines. And sensationalized headlines trigger an emotional brain. In fact, the Journal of Financial Behavior conducted a study where they found that those who consume more media saw lower investment returns. The more media you watch, the more news you consume, the lower your returns in your portfolio. All right, the last mistake, mistake number 4, is not being able to see the forest through the trees. In fact, take a look at this chart. When you look at this chart, what you see is that over time, again, the market goes up to the right. What we have to remember is that as we sit here today in 2024, we're thinking about one particular moment in time, and we have to zoom back out and remind ourselves of what happens over time. As you can see in this chart, the gray line is if you had stayed fully invested since 1949. The red line is if you only invested during the times where there was a Republican in office. The blue line is if you only invested during times of the Democrat. The lesson to be learned from this is simply don't let who's in office drive your investment decisions. The most predictable way to build and accumulate wealth over time is to stick to the plan and stay invested no matter what party is in control. Those are the top 4 mistakes that investors make during this time of year. But now let's talk about the 4 things you can do to avoid those emotional decisions. Number 1, most importantly, is to anchor to what matters most. In other words, in a time where there's tons of noise, you want to find your signal. You want to remind yourself and come back to anchor yourself to what is the real reason why I'm doing this? What is the real reason why I'm invested? Find your signal. Maybe your signal is the fact that you want to be able to retire as early as possible to maximize your time that you get to spend with your family. Maybe your time is to retire as early as possible so you can spend more time giving back to your community. Anchor to that and ask yourself, while I feel nervous about this election season and I feel tempted to make an emotional decision, will this decision give me a better chance or a worse chance of accomplishing what matters most? If you do nothing else, always anchor the thing that matters most. Find the signal in the noise. Number 2, zoom out. When our brain's in a heightened emotional state, what it has a tendency to do is hyper focus on that thing or on that threat that's right in front of it. And it goes back to what we talked about a second ago. You miss the forest through the trees. To zoom out, imagine yourself a year from today. The election's over. Everything's subsided. Are you making a decision today that's best for a year from now? Remember the graph that we just looked at, the chart we just looked at, where things tend to trend up and to the right over time. Zoom out from the current moment, zoom ahead into the future, look into the future, imagine yourself there when the election's over and ask yourself, will this still be the best decision for me, my family, and our future? Number 3, find yourself some accountability. Oftentimes, when you're in a heightened emotional state, you know what you're supposed to do, but it's really hard to do that thing. And one of the best ways to help with that is to have someone hold you accountable to the things that you know that you're supposed to do so you can avoid making emotional decisions that go against what you ideally want to do, the way you ideally want to act, behave, or decide. Now, one option to do that, obviously, is to work with and talk to a financial advisor, somebody that can help guide you and keep you level-headed. But even if it's not that, find somebody else in your life who you can talk through these things with, explain your fears and your frustrations to, and have them hold you accountable to the decisions that you want to make that are best for your financial future. Lastly, in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of turmoil, cling to the things that you can control. Focus on the things that you can control, not the things that you can't. You can't control who's going to be in office. You can't control how the market's going to react to that. You can't predict who's going to be in office and what's going to happen to the market. But there are things in your financial life that are fully within your control. And so if you feel the urge to do something, if you feel the need to act on something that you can control. Things like take a look at your current savings rate. Go in and look at your budget and figure out, am I spending on things that I could be cutting back on? Should I be spending more on things that I enjoy doing? Do I need to be saving more money? Your asset allocation, are you properly diversified in alignment with your risk tolerance? Is there a chance to rebalance? Or even your estate plan. Are you fully set up to give your assets to the people that they're supposed to receive them in the time frame that they're supposed to get them? In the time of change and uncertainty, focus on the things that you can control, not the things that you can't. If nothing else, remember these 2 things during this election season. Number 1, the market's going to go up and down no matter who the president is. It's always been that way, and it always will be. Number 2, investing your money how you vote will almost never result in sound, level-headed financial decisions. Until next time, stay wise and well.